And chat for the next hour. No, I hope I can promise you that we are going to have a stimulating conversation that we very much want you guys to be a part of as well. So we'll start with a bit of a provocation, and then hopefully you guys will have some questions as well for the panel. So welcome to Blackfriars House, our beautiful Blackfriars, and this is our third and final instalment of the Bluedot in Conversation events that we've been doing, and it's part of Bruntwood's partnership with the Bluedot Festival, which, for anybody that doesn't know, is happening between the 21st and the 24th of July at Jodrell Bank. Bluedot combines art, music and science in a blend of culture and innovation, and this really mirrors Bruntwood's approach to placemaking as well, and that for us is why we've got this natural partnership and relationship, and for us at Bruntwood our purpose is to create thriving cities, and we believe this partnership's a really important part of that. Places for us that prioritise well-being, inclusivity, sustainability and importantly for today's conversation are culturally vibrant as well. The first two events in the series, the first one was a conversation with Tom Heap in April, talking about his book 39 Ways to Save the Planet. So I can guess what that one was about. And then the second one, again, probably needs a little introduction. It was with Helen Pankhurst, so talking about women's rights and the persistent inequalities in our society. So that and today's conversation will be available on podcasts. So if you weren't available to make those, then hopefully you'll be able to catch up on them. But today we're going to be talking about culture and in particular what it means for Manchester, which is where we are sitting, and what it means for the communities of Manchester as well. I don't think it needs much of an introduction. I think everybody is very well aware that Manchester has a very rich cultural heritage, much talked about, not just within the city but across the world as well. Lots of famous Mancunians with cultural heritage. So today, really, it's just to talk about the role of culture in Manchester and actually the role of Manchester in culture as well. What role and responsibility do we all have to play within the cultural sector? We're going to touch on the engagement with culture and particularly like to focus on diversity and most importantly inclusivity as well. We can have all sorts of diverse activities, but actually do people feel that they are for them, and do people feel like that they belong as well? So. As I say, we'll get into these conversations, and so please do think of any inspiring questions that you guys have as we're going through. For those that don't know me, I'm Kate Vokes. I wear various different hats in the world, and relevant for today, I suppose, I'm a non-exec director at Bruntwood. We've got lots of relationships with cultural organisations across all of the cities and places that we work. I'm also the chair of the Oglesby Charitable Trust, who also has lots of cultural partnerships alongside our other charitable relationships. And I also sit on the board of the Royal Exchange Theatre, which is partly where my relationship with INGRA sits. So we have Gavin from the Band on the Wall, the fabulous institution that. How many people in the room have been to Band on the Wall? I hadn't realised I was going to ask that question, but I'm glad I did. How many people are planning to go to Band on the Wall? Well, I would positively encourage it because they've just spent a huge amount of money and it's been closed for 2 years while they've done it, and it's absolutely joyful space. But the best kept secret, which lots of people don't know, is that they do a huge amount of charitable work as well, which we'll come on to talk about. And the gigs and events actually fund the learning and charitable and community engagement work. We have Inga, Director of Relationships and Engagement at the Royal Exchange, and Inga's also a trustee at Thick Skin Physical Theatre Company as well, so hopefully we'll talk a little bit about that relationship as well. Inga and I have worked together both in my capacity as being on the board of the Royal Exchange, but also Bruntwood has a playwriting competition that they run in partnership with the Exchange, and we've also got a community project that we support through the Oglesby Charitable Trust called Local Exchange that has the wonderful pop-up theatre, The Den, which is coming to Cheetham Hill this year, and coincidentally and brilliantly, the Ukrainian Centre. And again, hopefully, we'll talk a little bit more about that. And my new best friend, we only met last week, but I'm always really keen. We spend a lot of time talking about young people and talking about what young people should have and what we should do for young people. And every time I've got an opportunity now to do something like this, I'm trying to encourage actually getting young voices on the panel. So Boshra and I met at a Young Manchester event last week, but brilliantly spoke. This keeps cutting in and out, but it's important for the recording. But brilliantly, your first piece of spoken word on stage was actually at Home Ground in the summer, which was on the Bruntwood stage. So it was just entirely serendipitous that we met and said I'd love to get you involved in today. So that's enough for me. You guys can do all the talking now. I think just to get started, I'm always really interested with people who are working in the in arts and culture. When was it, if there was a moment that you got inspired by something or somebody or some occasion in the arts world? Welcome. Was there a defining moment, Gavin, that you suddenly went, right, that's it?
Sorry, I was just looking at them, you know. Whoa, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry.
We should do some audio description, really, shouldn't we?
We should, yeah.
There was 9 people walked into the room. Right, so the microphone's gone off, so I'll just try and project. Yes, so for me, Kate, I was the product of a inspirational teacher. So I went to a normal secondary modern school on a council estate on the edge of Blackpool, and not masses going for it, except almost like the movie, it was the teacher who created the huge concert extravaganzas at the end of the summer and every Christmas, and I just was captivated by it, really. And got drawn into it. So started first of all by acting in those productions, and then rapidly joined the band, started playing saxophone. And then that was it. I went to music college, I studied saxophone, I joined a reggae band, and we toured the world. And that was pretty much my 20s, right there. There you go.
And it's a big decision, I think, from your passion to then working in it as well. Is that...
Yeah, I would say for certainly my background is that my family's background was all construction industry and manual labour. So, you know, no one from my family had ever done anything like it at all. So, but I got loads of support. I can't, you know, my parents and were hugely supportive. They also loved music, and my grandparents really loved music, and you know, we kind of my granddad loved jazz and songs from the musicals, and so I was kind of immersed in that stuff, you know, as a kid, and I think it does get ingrained in you, and I'm a real advocate for really just exposing as many kids as possible to music, to the and arts and culture and acting and drama and singing, and painting. All my daughters paint all the time. My wife's an artist, and we just think it's an incredibly enriching thing for young people to do, whether they go into it professionally or not. You know, it's just a thing that enriches life. So lots of my family still kind of in the construction industry, and I regularly say to them, what we should be doing is building a piano into every new house that's ever built in the country. Never mind, obviously insulation is important, but you know, a piano, come on. So so that's kind of where I'm from. I'm a real advocate for just giving young people the opportunity to make music, and it doesn't really need to be formal classes. It just needs to be immersion in music and opening the door to opportunity to be able to make music. And that, if we come on to those in the discussions, that really underpins an awful lot of what we are aiming to achieve at Band on the Wall, certainly in our new spaces. Should I?
Inga?
Yeah, I guess very similar experiences in terms of how I got involved, and from Huddersfield, and went to the local high school. And that first time of when I was in year 6, doing like a transition from junior school to high school, and as part of that, they took us to see the dress rehearsal of Bugsy Malone, and I just sat there and was like, I cannot wait to get to high school. I want to be in that. That looks amazing, and that. But the school didn't have really much money, and they didn't do a show every year. They couldn't afford to do that. But any opportunity that was, whether it was that stage managing a little play or putting on a play in the church or anything that was kind of around that I could do, I was there for it. And again, that inspirational drama teacher that supported that and gave those opportunities in his own time and made those things happen was so inspiring. And he kind of helped me to find opportunities outside of school, because there wasn't many in school. So he would link me into other things in the community so that I could get those opportunities, even though the school couldn't provide it. And I think there was also a few moments where, like, the National Theatre brought a touring production of Oh, What a Lovely War in a big top tent, and it was on in Wakefield. And then the Lawrence Batley Theatre just opened in Huddersfield, a new theatre, and it had a production by Complicity. And it was this really, those shows, 2 shows particularly, just blew my mind about what theatre could also do. And it wasn't just about having a good time with my friends and being on stage. It was about I cried in those plays. I felt something. I learned something about myself and the world in which I live. And that was the inspiration of God. This is what I want to do now. I want to tell those stories. I want to help more people. And I think that thing that was in my hometown, or it was in Wakefield, and that work on my doorstep, I didn't have to come over to Manchester to see it or go down to London to see it. And it was there for me to access, and I think that's always been the driving force for me then, and how I ended up working in engagement. So my work has always been in engagement work. I started off working in places when I moved to London. I was working in Slough and Hackney and Tower Hamlets, and it's all been about engaging people, whether it's children, adults with learning disabilities, in theatre and the arts, and people being able to tell their own stories, and that's been my driving force throughout all my work. But yeah, again, that important teacher, that important person who opens that door to you, when, again, no one from my family has ever worked in theatre before. No one had was following this as a career, but it's that that one person who says, yeah, this is for you and you can do it. They're so important. Hopefully I do that now for other people through my job. And we're just talking because member of the Young Company at the Royal Exchange before, and those things are so important then to see people finding those opportunities.
Sorry, what was the question again? I've just been listening to them and I'm just like, oh, wow, okay, tell me more.
Well, what inspired you, or what is inspiring you at the moment to do what you're doing?
Okay. It was about, like, getting exposed, right, to, like, creativity and all that. My earliest memory would be me being 5 and loving to dance at every single party. And having all my sister's friends invite me when they're teenagers and I'm like 7, 8, because I just loved performing. But I think when I was 14, so we went back to Libya, where I'm from, for this, not the summer. When we say summer, we end up going for like 4 months, by the way. It's just a typical North African thing to do. But yeah, we had a house in the capital and we're from the mountains. So we used to go every weekend to my granddad's house, and, you just get bored, sitting down in a car for like 2 hours. So I got my mama's phone and I was interviewing my siblings in 3 different languages, and I was switching, and apparently it sounded good. That's what my parents said. And then they turned around and they were like, "Whoa, you should be a TV presenter. You should have your own show." I was like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And then I forgot about it. And then 2 years later, I was like, oh yeah, this is what I want to do. I want to get into the media industry. I want to get into the creative industry. Just because I feel like I just love people, and I love learning about people and talking to people. And that's how I met you, because I approached her and was like, you look good.
Flattery gets you everywhere.
But yeah, I love talking to people. I love learning about people. But also, one of the reasons that I started was, and I was telling this to my dad, and I don't remember where exactly and what shop we were at, and I was like, I want to start to show every single young girl, and by the way, I'm not here an advocate for women only, I'm an advocate for everyone. I appreciate people that are like feminist ladies that are feminists, they're like, oh, pro women, we want to give women jobs, da, da, da. I support you and I appreciate you, but for me, I want to make sure that everyone reaches their potential before they leave Earth, basically. And I want everyone to feel satisfied and fulfilled with like what they're creating and what they're doing. So my goal was like, I was telling my dad, I was like, my goal is to show every single young girl at that time that she is more than capable of being a presenter, of being an actor, of being whatever she wants to be, a doctor, a lawyer, whatever. Because to be honest with you, like, I'm Libyan, and mostly like Libyans are very academic, so you go through the traditional route of being, a doctor, a lawyer, an architect. But like being a creative is really hard, and that was my goal, to really like inspire people. Not that I'm very inspirational, by the way, but to inspire people and show them that a big goal is achievable, and it's okay to be the black sheep of the family.
That's brilliant. Thank you. Always really interesting just to hear what it is that's inspired people. I'm really interested. I mean, Manchester's got this rich history and legacy of culture. What do you think, or how do you describe the role of culture within Manchester? So Manchester's obviously made up of all sorts of different things that tell its story. What do you think the role of culture is in that?
You can.
Well, it covers. There's a role that culture plays. So historically, and where it's landed Manchester on the map. Manchester is where it is because of our rich history of music, and the organisations that are here. It's put as our, we have a global reputation. Manchester International Festival, the organisations that are here, the artists that are here. But I think it's also, for me as well, the importance of that local culture and the culture that makes up and makes people proud of where they live, but also that they have a voice within the city. So you think about Pride, or you think about, on a more local level, the Cheetham Hill Cultural Festival, or all the events that happen around. They're a celebration of the people that live here. And it's an opportunity to celebrate, and that's what makes Manchester what it is. It's the people, and we're so proud of that. And I think that's the opportunity that culture gives is that voice and those opportunities to celebrate the people that make up Manchester. But it also does have that global reach as well that culture plays, I think, for the city.
Yeah, I think. One of the things that again we're focusing on and we've spent some time kind of developing is the impact of the migrant heritage on the city. That actually, Manchester more than anything is a city of migrants. You go back 250 years and it's a little village. There's very few people live in Manchester whose lineage goes right the way back and is purely Mancunian. So even so many of us have got Irish heritage or rural English heritage, and very rapidly, because Manchester's place in the Industrial Revolutions started drawing people from all over the world as it traded with the world, then people arrived here. And personally, I think, and that, of course, is an ongoing process. It doesn't stop. And I personally think that's one of the reasons that Manchester is unique, that we are a city of migrants, that we have this kind of fundamental sense of welcoming migrants here. That our kind of social outlook is really built into the fabric of who we are as a city society, which is just quite unique. You just do not get the same sense of it elsewhere. Of course, London is in the same way an international city and built in the same way. People have been drawn to London over the years. But the thing with London is it's so big, it's very difficult for that integration to have occurred over the time period, whereas Manchester is actually small enough. So, we do get that integration. And of course, people express themselves more than anything through their cultural heritage. You know, if they want to retain some sense of their identity, it's through music, and it is through the art, and it is through the fabrics and the designs and the clothing and the food, and all these things mixed together to create you know, a sense of identity which is both international but also very, very local, and gives us this kind of strong sense of Mancunian.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because there's no doubt that this city is it is diverse and has a lot of different communities. How well integrated do you think that people are, or do you think that people are living within their separate cultures? And I guess an obvious leading question to that was, and what role can art and culture play in that social cohesion?
I personally speaking, I'll pass the mic on, sorry, in a sec, but personally speaking, I think over my lifetime of being active in Manchester's kind of grassroots culture, that I have seen integration occur, that, you know, that places, not just like Ban on the Wall, but, you know, social spaces and cultural spaces have been places whereby people meet, they socialise, they talk, they exchange ideas, and that and certainly within Manchester, and the richness of our cultural offer has really helped to sustain that. But I would say, you know, you get to an age where you can kind of look back and you think, you know what, it really is a bit less ghettoized. It's a lot less ghettoized than it was, to be honest, back in the 80s. And so and then you look further back into history and you think, well, actually, this is, you know, I'm seeing 30 years now of a process that maybe has been occurring over 150 years, and therefore that gives you some confidence that the journey that we are on is progressing, you know, in a positive way. And of course, there's always setbacks, but, you know, that is progressing in a positive way. And that, you know, yeah, we can be proud that arts and culture has got a really important part to play in that, you know, that all our spaces, you know, we should celebrate all our spaces do contribute to that. I think it's something we should be really proud of.
Boshra, do you feel that all art and cultural spaces are welcoming for everybody? Do you think that they're, you know, do you think for the podcast there's a face? There's a
I want to okay, so yes and no. Okay, so I want to say mostly yes, because I feel like people are interested.
Keep persevering.
Okay, I'm just gonna hold it.
Magic it back to life.
Yeah. I feel like Manchester's such a like welcoming community. Okay, I wasn't expecting it to come back this fast, I'm not gonna lie. And everyone's really open to like, the people that I have come across are really open to like learn about you, learn about your culture, your religion. And by the way, culture and religion are two separate different things. And I always say this, and we need to be very careful when we're asking questions, rather than saying, so in your culture, in the Muslim or culture, it's not a culture, it is a religion. You just can't say that. You really can't. So no, yeah, people are open. People wanna change stuff, and I appreciate that. But the reason why I say no, it's because the industry that I'm in isn't Muslim friendly. So a lot of places would be, you know, serving alcohol. And normally I can't stay after 9 o'clock because it's just not my environment. So right now, I know you guys are not getting drunk, so that's why I'm here. But normally, if I'm going to an event, for example, I get booked at so many events in London, and I'm always the first one to leave, and they always finish at 1 o'clock, and I'm just like, everyone's like, why are you leaving? First of all, because this is not my environment. Second of all, my parents won't be happy with me staying here. But again, the main reason, it's because of my beliefs, and yeah, I don't know, it's a bit of a tricky, I don't think I can really give you a proper answer right now, whether if it's a welcoming place for people like myself or not. The only thing that I can say is, yes, people are welcoming. They want to learn about you, but at the same time, it's not a welcoming environment. It's not Muslim friendly. And even when I get, offered a job opportunity, there's always something that I don't agree with as a Muslim or as Boshra, and it doesn't align with my morals and values. And when I speak up, it's like cancel culture is there waiting for me. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's like, we talk about freedom of speech all the time, but when people want to voice their opinions and speak freely, we're just like, you will get cancelled if you say one more word. You either accept this job or leave. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's a difficult one to answer.
Well, yeah, it is a difficult one to answer, and it's everybody's grappling with it. And hopefully, events like this, and your story will hopefully encourage people to ask questions and be more respectful and learn. We're just all here to keep learning and learning and growing, aren't we? I mean, I think this week there's been quite a lot in the press about Glastonbury and how Glastonbury hasn't. Lenny Henry's come out and sort of talking about how it not diverse it is for many reasons, and not least for ticket prices, as well as and the accessibility of things. At the exchange, what sort of things is the Royal Exchange doing to ensure? Because one of the things about the exchange, which can be and is a barrier to some people, is the most beautiful space. It's one of the things that sells the place, but actually it's also one of the things that stops people going because they think it's not for them.
Can I just answer that question for you very quickly? As someone that has been part of the Royal Exchange, they are very diverse and they are very accessible and welcoming, and I've seen that I'm so sorry, but I really had to answer this question. No, on a real level, I was part of the young company at the Royal Exchange. I was doing performing sessions, and they were very, very, very accessible, very open-minded, very welcoming, and I would recommend anyone to actually apply and do anything with them. This is why I'm so interested in the Royal Exchange. I want to do more with you guys because it's such a welcoming environment, and I really appreciate it. There you go.
No, that's brilliant. You said it better than I can, because you're the person who's experienced it, and that's the best thing we can hear, is that you do feel welcome and it is your home. You said that you love coming to the cafe and just sitting there and you feel completely at home there, and that's the best thing we can do, because that's what we want people to feel, and that's what we're constantly trying to do. But there are barriers, and I think just the nature of the building, those big steps going up to it, if you don't know it's there, you probably will not feel like you could open those doors to come in. But when you do get in, I think everyone does feel, who have kind of engaged with us, that it is that family, it is that safe space, and it is diverse, and you can see yourself represented on the stage and in the stories that we're telling. But there can be a lot of challenges for people to make that first step. And so we are doing a lot of work that as Kate kind of referenced about our work called Local Exchange, that is supported by OCT, and that's our kind of real place-based work that we're doing in specific communities, and one of them is Cheetham Hill, and I can reference the Cheetham Hill Cultural Festival, and we've been working there for about 4 years now, working to understand the community, work with the partners that are there, and we've developed a group of ambassadors who are representative of that community. So going back to that question around, do people work together, or are people in their own kind of community within a community? We haven't found that in Cheetham Hill. Yes, there is like the Ukrainian Cultural Centre, or there's the Irish History Centre. There's a lot of different groups there, but actually they all do work collaboratively together and learn from each other and share their stories and experiences. And we have got an incredible group of local people. Some who have never been to the Royal Exchange before we started working there, some who are big advocates, artists who have been working for a long time, some people who've come from like Abraham Moss School who are new to kind of finding their creative voice, and they're programming the Den, which is the pop-up theatre that Kate referenced, that's going into the Ukrainian Centre, and we're just about to publish the whole programme. But in terms of that's been co-created with the ambassadors, so they've kind of programmed that festival, and it is an incredible range of theatre, but also beyond theatre. So there's 2 art exhibitions. There is music, there is dance, there is spoken word, there is workshops, and that's been the really good thing for the Royal Exchange, is us learning as well. What do different communities want? What do people want to see? And in the long term, that helping to influence how we talk, how we communicate with people, how we welcome people into our space as well. So that's the big thing we're doing. It's a very long term, and we're working in these communities for a very long time. Like I said, I've been there 4 years in Cheetham Hill. We're not planning to leave it anytime soon either. And it's just been brilliant to develop those really long-term relationships, because it does take time.
And just even some of the smaller practical things like tickets.
Yeah, so the tickets. So for the Den in the Ukrainian Centre, it's £1 tickets for everything, and free workshops. We are in previous places. We've taken it to Lee, and we've taken it to Staley Bridge, and that was pay what you decide tickets. But yeah, these are just a £1 ticket, which is again decided with the ambassadors to encourage people to kind of get into a habit of buying a ticket. But also we're encouraging donations to the Ukrainian Centre and to support the crisis happening in Ukraine. It feels really important we're in that space, that we're also supporting the community in which we're working. Yeah, and then we also have ambassadors have free tickets to give out. So for all of our shows at the Exchange, the ambassadors are giving tickets to people in their community to bring them to the Exchange. So people are, as well as going out, people are coming in as well to the building, and that's and like I say, we're working not just in Cheetham Hill, but working in Beswick, in Rochdale, Lee, and in Staley Bridge as well.
And just quickly talk about the box office and the customer service.
Yeah,
well, so it's not just all about.
No, it's not about all the performance. Yeah, so we have we started it in when we did the Den in Staley Bridge. We work with partners in the area to offer training in front of house and customer service roles. So the Den is, all of it is run by local people. So when you're coming, you probably see some you might recognise, actually welcome you into that space. So that's a training programme that we deliver. And then for those that are interested, hopefully some will be interested to come on to roles at the Royal Exchange. So 3 women from Tameside went on to join our visitor experience team, and 2 from Lee as well. And we're in about week 3 working in Cheetham Hill, and we've got 10 new people who are working with us, and really hopeful, especially because it's a bit more nearer to our venue, that more people will want to kind of gain employment with us. And everyone we're working with in these schemes are currently unemployed, so it's given real skills and opportunities. And Debbie, who is one of our ambassadors in Tameside, I think is a brilliant example of, she was unemployed. We met her through Jigsaw Homes, one of our partners, and she went on to not only become part of our visitor experience and become an ambassador in Tameside. She has performed on our stage in 24 Hours of Peace that we did. She is now performed as part of a legacy project that we've done in Tameside, and she's just made a video of like a film for Jigsaw Home. She's really found her voice as an actor now and is also flying with that, and that was something that she wouldn't, if she was here now, she'd be very vocal about it. She never thought the theatre was there. She always says, I think I had to wear a tiara to come in this place. I would never have come in. And now she works it with us regularly. So and that's important about that representation and people, and making it a welcoming space that you see yourself there, whether it's the person who's tearing your ticket or it's the person on the stage or across the theatre, and that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, no, she's a lovely example. I got accosted on Oxford Road, but you're that Den lady. And she gave me a big hug, and she's brilliant. She's absolutely brilliant. Gavin, you've spent a lot of money making your space beautiful and work better, but also it does feel more accessible. And
we've done a lot over the years to try and make it as accessible as possible at all levels. And of course, again, like all these things, it is a bit of a journey. But we were the first small venue in the country to hold the gold standard for physical accessibility, and that was again not just about the building and flat access and all those kinds of standard things, but also about staff training and messaging and the website and putting the audio loops in. So you've really got to throw yourself into. Well, it's not throwing yourself into. You've got to have that belief that actually the best way to do it is the right way to do it, and that's what we've done. And it really has informed everything about the way we've developed the new venue. So the aim with the new venue was that not only could anyone get into the venue certainly in a wheelchair, but could do that unaided. So we've got automated doors all the way through, right the way up into the learning suites. There's accessibility toilets. There is hearing loops everywhere. There's low counters everywhere where we need them. That all the website's been rebuilt around AAA principles for accessibility. We do a audio brochure every month. So all these things are really ingrained into our processes. So that's in terms of disability access. But I suppose for people feeling that they can access the space comfortably. We're very fortunate in that, we have this very long history that goes back with many different communities within Manchester. So, we do enjoy a very diverse audience, and people do come in and they do feel comfortable. And of course, our programme represents that diversity, and it celebrates internationalism, and our staff reflect that. And so it's not. I'll be honest, it's not like it's ever been a kind of an it's always a journey, but it's never been an effort, I would say. It's something that is just really ingrained into the culture of who and what we are. I've not always worked in those kinds of places. I've got to say, I worked for a very large orchestral institution for a while. They were brilliant, but culturally they had a lot, much further to go, and we had to drive that process through, with a few of the management team who were committed to really embedding equality into everything that we did. So there's a whole hour of conversation with all sorts of people to be, but fundamentally what I would say is that thing of it's about the culture. It's about embedding. So it's not an effort to make an effort for people to be able to access things. It should just be what you do.
And one of the things I love particularly about the space now is making it open and accessible to people. Interesting, you're talking about different times of day and wanting and different vibes of spaces. That you've got this amazing facility. There are all sorts of wonderful public spaces that are closed off for lots of periods of time, and you guys have deliberately created an environment and put different things on for different people to use in different ways throughout the day.
Absolutely. So there's a secondary performance space. So again, that's free to access. So again, the aim of that is supporting emerging musicians to get into the sector. And again, we want them to get into our culture, because there is a music industry culture that is quite hard to penetrate. So, that's about that. But at the same time, it's free. We don't charge ever. So I'm always constantly trying to find ways of financing that. But so that then that is free for people to access who can't afford it. But then there's all the hidden spaces upstairs. So we've integrated cameras into all the stages and spaces, and upstairs we've got a set of studios. Now those studios are not to create really fantastic broadcast quality films for Media City or something. They are for I was a big fan of Jamal Edwards. When he first came out and he was doing what he was doing, I just thought it was incredible. So we've created a space that is all about providing opportunities, mainly through the Manchester College is our route at the moment, to be able to come in, film the bands, meet the band. It's all connected with the stage. The architect's just done the most amazing job, but it's connected with the stage, so they can run down, meet the artists, interview them, bring them upstairs. There's an upstairs terrace where they can film them and interview them and record them. So it's it's free to access. For me, I just want to find 10 kids a year and say, look, here's a TV studio. Here's a TV studio. Here's loads of bands. Here's some great music. Just do what you want with it. So that's kind of where we're headed at the moment with that. Because again, what we've found, the other thing, we run our own. Sorry, I'm going on now, aren't I? But we run our own bar, so and box office. So we recruit young people, into the bar very often, through the Manchester College, and they'll come and work on the bar. And then what you're looking for is enthusiasm, really. You're looking for, enthusiasm and drive. And we've had so many young people come through our bar that have then progressed into the industry. And I've got people who've left school probably with very little, gone through the Manchester College. And I know that one of them currently is on tour in Rome. Or at least my program manager or head of programming, who also came through the Manchester College, went to a Pixies gig in Rome on Monday, and she bumped into the production manager who went to, and it's like I was saying to Boshra before, it's like I've got loads of kids, but these kids are kind of going out all over the world doing, and they come back and they tell, I'm doing merch for somebody amazing, And it's just so rewarding to see, and I think that's a big part of accessibility. It's just, I came from a place where you just had no idea how to get into it at all. You want to be in the music industry, you've no idea how to get into it at all. And I was lucky, same thing, I've had a teacher, and then I went to a college, and I had another tutor who was great, and and that was kind of the pathway in. But and that's kind of what we want to do. We want to provide those pathways in, and the more ways we can do that. So with these, the new spaces upstairs with the studios, and but also, accepting that, people need to earn money. They need a job, and part of what they're looking for is to get employment in the sector. So yeah, that's a very long. Sorry, Kate.
No, don't apologise.
But that for me, they're all part of the same thing. They're all about accessibility. It's all about providing opportunities for people who wouldn't normally get, and you want that, for that. Sorry, I'm really going on now, don't you?
we love.
I'll stop now.
Sorry, I promised a conversation, and I was throw it out to you guys. Has anybody got any questions for the panel? Can't hear.
Okay, in short, what do you think the biggest difference between culture building communities in Manchester in comparison to London, where it's just on a completely different scale? And I'm not asking why it's better or worse, but like, what do you think the key differences of the Mancunian way is compared to, not the road, compared to London?
I don't have an answer for the question. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna waffle away, right? I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know. You know what? I love London, so I'm just gonna be biased and just say London's amazing. People are amazing there. Do you know what I'm saying? So I can't really answer the question. I think you have enough experience to answer this question.
Yeah, give it a go. But I mean, it's what you reference. It's totally different. It's such a huge area, and I have worked in London, and I've worked. And each area is very different. And so I think when I was working in Tower Hamlets or in Hackney, you are working within that community. Just as I guess you are in Manchester in some ways, you might be working in Rochdale, and that's different to working in Salford. And you do find the area. So in some ways, there's a lot of similarities, but it is just that breadth of it. You're probably not, as an organisation, going to be working. The Young Vic is not covering every ward of every borough of London, because that's 33 boroughs, so it would be hard for an organisation to reach all those areas, whereas it's difficult in Greater Manchester in particular, but to do that, but it's probably more possible to do that, I think, as a cultural organisation.
The only thing I'd add to that, is it does seem to be more focused into those boroughs, doesn't it? So people do great work, but within their own communities.
I guess my worry is, and I wonder if the panel agree, as actually living in Manchester is becoming harder and less accessible, and we talk about Manchester's rich cultural heritage, and a lot of that is working class, and just worry with all this, economic miracle that's going on around us, if Manchester becomes less of that creative city and more of a consuming city regarding culture. What do you think?
Interesting question. I don't have an answer. But that got me thinking.
It is interesting, I think, because I've seen a lot of people leave London and come to Manchester because actually London isn't accessible if you're an artist. You can't make a living there. The rent's too high. You can't have a family. You couldn't settle. You can't. And so people are seeing Manchester as the opportunity. I can do that there, and there is so much culture here, and there is so much opportunity. So I will come here, and so I think at the moment it's kind of providing that. But whether longer term then that Manchester then follows the same route as happens in London, and then people are now finding, I can't stay in Manchester now. Where's the next place? So I hope, but hopefully Manchester can look at what's happened in London and learn from that, and actually make sure that it is still an affordable city to be creative and to have a living here, and make sure it is accessible to people who have lived here for a long time, but also new people who want to come in. That's, like you say, that's what makes Manchester, the new people coming into the city. But yeah, absolutely, I think we've got to look at what's happened in London and make sure that we don't repeat it here.
My question was very much actually in the same vein, and I was going to kind of pose it as, do we think Manchester might become kind of a victim of its own success in a way? But I guess more pointed, I think culture is almost like a weapon that is used in the artillery of developers, and it's no shade against Bruntwood at all, but it is becoming weaponized. And is there a danger, do you think, that when people are trying to gentrify areas, they've always used culture, whether it be art, music, etc., bring those things in to forge these communities as we're talking about? So I guess it's like, is there a danger that, I work with a lot of DIY venues, and as we see these high rises going up, it almost feels like the shadows are starting to fall on these venues. And I mean, you're talking from two amazing spaces there, but the smaller ones that don't have that aren't those big cultural institutions, but very much, for me in the nightlife industry, are cultural institutions. They're going to get pushed out eventually because Manchester is developing at such a massive rate in favour of these more kind of, like I say, sanitized, homogenized spaces and communities. So the communities that are being forged are actually pushing out the original communities that were there. So it's very much kind of the same question, but I guess just in terms of the rate of development, what do we think that is?
Is that okay? Yeah. Well, obviously, it's a really live issue within the small live music venue sector, isn't it? There's a number of venues that have been forced into closure because developers have built big apartment blocks next to them, very often put someone in the apartment blocks to complain to get it shut. And we probably, if you follow it in the press, you'll know some of those stories. And of course, it's really important that we recognise that those spaces of which, Band on the Wall has transformed into something else probably now, but it started off as a pub at the end. I mean, I remember when the Northern Quarter was largely derelict, no one went through there, and Band on the Wall just sat at the other edge, and it had I can't remember the doorman's name, but it will come to me. Yeah, it's about 35 years ago. So, but he would just open the hatch and it'll come to me. So, Band on the, but these kind of spaces are culturally enriching. Of course they are. And spaces and organisations like ours, and I think INGRA would agree, have an absolute responsibility to retain our connections with those early developing spaces, to advocate for them, to support them, not undermine them, by any means. I mean, we take gigs into tiny venues. That's part of what we do, though, you know, we're just a small venue ourselves. But I would say that in Manchester, I would say politically, we are fortunate that, largely speaking, that is recognised. And even though the developers would love to go in and knock everything down and just keep building and building and building, I think that for the most part there is enough protection. And remarkably, even though so much goes up, you just continue to find these spaces that no one else knows is there, and someone sets something up in. I mean, it just never ceases to amaze me that some archway that I've driven past every, you know, few months for 30 years suddenly turns into this amazing pop-up bar venue, or, you know, gallery, or, you know, all sorts of things. So, you know, Manchester has got the, you know, it's like a mega city on all these different levels, isn't it? That there just seems to be these spaces. So I don't think that we are in danger of losing our character yet, but it's very important that the voices are, you know, that we keep shouting out and saying, you know, look, you can't just turn it into another kind of Americanesque type city, that we really want to retain our character. And that's a very, very important part of who we are. But I do think it's recognised politically at the moment anyway.
I'll just make one quick comment about developers. Developers wanting to knock buildings down and just keep growing and growing. I think there are absolutely developers that want to do that, but I'd just caveat that with long-term, people who are interested in long-term investment in development, which we are, and many other. We're very fortunate in Manchester that we do have a number of other property businesses who are interested in the long-term success of cities. And the only way that we can have long-term success is if we are bringing everybody with us, and we have to have culturally rich, diverse cities and places for them to be attractive for people to live and work. Otherwise, you're just building big shiny buildings that will be empty. And so there is a commercial gain in it, but if you care about the long term, then you do care about much more than just the bricks and mortar. So. Do we have time for one more? We don't have time for. Do we have any burning questions? Because I'd really love to save a little bit of time. If you'd like to do a little, it would be very remiss of me not to let me have a little turn. Before we do that, though, just very quick fire. What event, arts and culture event, is coming up that is in your mind is a must see? What would you be plugging? What are you going to that?
Can I just plug my open mic?
Go for it.
It's this Sunday. It's literally a 5-minute walk from here. Tickets are £3 just to literally cover, you know, travel expenses, getting a taxi, getting my speak on my mic, a good microphone like this. But yeah, and then obviously I've got other events going on, but this is the priority right now, like my mum would like to say it. I know her accent is ridiculous, but I love her. But there you go, that's it for me.
Well, the Den in Cheetham Hill at the Ukrainian Centre is coming up very soon. So if you're in that area, definitely come along and support some amazing local artists and some also brilliant work that's coming into there. But also Switch Manchester, if you want to see something this week. They are a company that have come out of the Royal Exchange's Young Company, and they've got a double bill on at the moment, and they just opened last night. So I think check out Switch Manchester as an exciting new young theatre company in the city.
Oh my gosh! Is it one of our events?
Anything.
Oh right. So we've got Malatu on at the end of August, and if you've never seen him before, he's a total legend. You just missed Azimuth on Sunday. Who these are all guys that have been around. Malatu's probably in his 70s now. Azimuth, they're all in their 70s now, and just amazing musicians. For new stuff, we've got Sammy Ray coming next year, and I have been. Has anyone ever heard of Sammy Ray? Sammy Ray and Friends. She kind of pops up on playlists. So anyway, I was telling my guys, they're all younger than me, you know, my guys got books. So I've been trying to get her for about 4 years now. And we finally got her to come over. And we're kind of having bets in the office about how quickly it would go. And I said, we'll have sold half the tickets by the end of the weekend. They're like, you're joking. Anyway, we sold 250 tickets by the Sunday, and it's about to sell out. So if you don't know her yet, you probably will know her in a few years' time, or hopefully 12 months' time. So I definitely check that out. We'll probably put a second show on sale as well. So yeah, great. Oh, there's so much.
There is so much, and I'm going to cheat and remind you all about Bluedot.
Yeah,
so,
yes.
Go and don't forget Bluedot Festival in July. You're ready. Do you want this? Which mic is more?
It's the same. Yeah. Which one is it again?
Well, do whichever you want. What did I like? Hidden Truth.
Okay, the Hidden Truth. Okay. I'll do my first ever spoken word piece that I've done before. By the way, guys, I've been working all day at home. I haven't eaten anything. That's why I'm a bit shaky. So excuse me if I'm like, you know what I'm saying? Okay, I'll do the Hidden Truth, and then I'll do the first spoken word piece that I've ever written. I've never done it sat down, you know. Now let me try doing it sat down, you know. Okay. I might be asked to do this again, so I'm prepared. This is rehearsal, yeah? Okay, so here's the truth that food. I need food in my system. Here's the truth that nobody has ever told you and will never tell you. If you're over 20, healthy, wealthy, with love, support, and peace of mind, and still don't know what to do or where to go, it's okay. It's fine. I know it's a hard life, but you need to start thinking with your mind. Life is too short for delay. Life is too short to procrastinate. Life is too short to think what they're going to say. You live for you and only for you, because nobody's ever going to be in your shoes. But you need to get in their shoes to win and not lose, to learn from their excuse to be the news. When I say news, I mean good news. News that will make people want to be jewels and give excuses to your overviews, dissent, situation, sensation, aspiration. And that's what I got to say to the fools. Okay, so I feel like it's I always try to do this spoken word piece just because it's kind of like a summary of how I am as a person, and it's the first poem that I've ever written, and it's kind of a good introduction to who I am to people that don't know me. But yeah, it's called Power, and I wrote it like in less than 5 minutes, but yeah, it goes like this. This is how, by the way, I discovered that like I can actually write, which is crazy. Oh, also, I wasn't meant to be on this workshop because you're meant to be from the age of like 16 to 19, and I only just turned 20. So when I wrote it, I wrote I'm 20, strong, independent, fearless. But when I was reading it out on Zoom, I was like, I'm 19. I'm 19, strong, independent, fearless. I was like, but yeah, I really wanted to improve my writing. That's why I kind of lied, which I feel bad. God forgive me. But yeah, it goes like this. I'm 20, strong, independent, fearless. Never thought about giving up when I'm furious. I always looked at the full half of the glass when I'm serious. Because failure was never an option for me because I'm dangerous. Life is too short for me to be a coward. Praise God for giving me the power.
That's brilliant. Thank you ever so much to the panel for coming today and giving up their time and sharing some of your thoughts. And thank you very much for you guys for coming and joining us.
Thank you guys. It's amazing.